We are actually live this week with actual factual sound this week, so that's a positive. So over the last several streams, we've been working on a Necrodominance-esque deck, and I will certainly get back to that, but I always keep an eye out for interesting deck lists to stream, to tweak, to work on, and I always have had a soft spot for Winota since even before its banning in Pioneer. And this is a Mardu Energy-esque build that has some interesting cards. It was by Torame. I'm not as familiar with their decks and stuff, but I have seen a few decks every now and again working with Winota, and I do wonder, if there isn't a energy shell out there that, could somehow be pretty reasonable in the current meta. The unique things about this, obviously we have the energy shell, Guide of Souls, Ocelot Pride, Ajani, Goblin Bombardment, Flage, Ragavan, Galvanic Discharge. Nothing terribly new there. What is unique about this is there are no Pyromancers or no Fabled Mirror Breakers in the main deck. Instead, it's opting for Ranger Captain, which obviously might be leftover from tech from the pre-ban Underworld Breach, and then Alicia Who Smiles or Laughs at Fate. It's a first strike 2/2. Whenever it attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Raid at the beginning of your end step. If you attack this turn, return to a creature mana value less than or equal to its power. So if you can attack, make it a 3/3. Obviously, you can return a Flage, you can return a Ranger Captain and a Johnny, Marionette Apprentice. We'll talk about in a second, etc. And then obviously, Ranger Captain pairs nicely with all your 1-drops. Annoying Peacekeeper is a bit of kind of anti-combo, slow your opponent down tech to pair with your Thoughtseizes. Flage obviously is just an absurd card in these shells. And then Winota. Whenever a non-human you control attacks, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may put a human card from among them on the battlefield tapped and attacking. Gains indestructible until in turn. Put the rest of the cards at the bottom of your library in a random order. Now, I have worked with this card in the past a little bit. This was pre-MH3. It was a very legend-heavy build. It was using things like Mox Amber to try to get a little bit of ahead. And it was very fragile. It was trying to use things like Magus of the Moon, Chalice of the Void, etc. to kind of try to lock the opponent out while beating them down. We had some 3/2s. I think we may have even had a 4/1, but the deck felt very fragile. Winota itself was a fine card, and is a value for things like Ranger Captain, such as fine. In the sideboard we have Magus and Pyro. But, it really lacked some good 1-drops outside of, like, Champion of the Parish. But, Ragavan was a key part of that Ocelot Pride guide. So this version feels a lot more interesting, at least, and has, Marionette Apprentice. Whenever a creature or artifact you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life. This drains very nicely with Goblin Bombardment. So I think that the interlocking pieces of this deck are very good. Arena of Glory had not been printed yet to give Winota haste, so I'm much more willing to give this a try now. Now, as far as the sideboard options, you have Path to Exile additional removal spells, Celestial Purge against anything red or black based, Anointed Peacekeeper as another disruption for combo, Magus when you're up against Eldrazi and company, Seasoned Pyro when you find yourself in more of an attrition based matchup, but you don't necessarily want, say, Alicia or Ranger Captain. You can easily support these in, Wear Tears against any type of Mox Opal nonsense, and then Nihil Spell Bombs as any type of graveyard insurance. What this version is lacking, things like Thraben Charm. We're not running anything like Bowmaster, so I'll be interested to see how this version plays out. So that said, let's get the ball rolling because this is going to take a little bit. And because there's only 2 days left in this league, we do kind of have to finish the league tonight. So I have decent hopes for this build, but we'll see. It is obviously very different from what we've been working on lately on the channel, which was obviously the Necrodominance combo, which we will get back to. But I did want to do something a little different tonight. Yes, I'd like to play first. 4 lands, double Thoughtseize, a Gianni. Feels like a reasonable enough hand, although it is obviously kind of risky. Old Drizzles. Alright, well, definitely on Thoughtseize here. Karma Shrine, Blood Crypt. Guess we'll get Blood Crypt. Alright. Wow. That is definitely a hand. I think we take Kozilek's Command for now. Opponent definitely very reliant on their Devourer finding a land. Okay, so they exiled all 4 cards. Okay, well, we've successfully unlocked drawing all 3 of our Surveil lands, which is not ideal, but nope. Okay, Talisman's annoying, but alright, so I think we go ahead and Thunkseas. So their hand is Devour, Emrakul, Rumble, and Utopia Sprawl. Another black source in play here. Is Ragavan really what we're looking for here? Not really. Here comes Rumbleclaws, here comes Rumbleclaws, right down Rumbleclaw's lane. Okay, I would assume they're taking Stomping Ground here. And then putting Utopia Sprawl on it. That was definitely less than ideal. Presumably block. Oh, okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They are 1 mana off of Emrakul. I just don't think we're making it out of this one in one piece. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I guess it's Devour this turn. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No, they can Emrakul. Alright. So, Path to Exile, probably not ideal here. We probably want Magus in. Wear Terror is probably not terrible. Probably not a huge fan of Gal. Path might be better. Fleege is a fine card. I just don't think it's a matchup for it. Okay, Path. Bring those in. All right, so yeah, can't keep the one lander. Hand isn't particularly exciting, but I do think we just put back Basic Mountain here. Like Eldrazi needs any other crap to make their deck better. Not a huge fan of bringing in Wear Terror, but between the Talismans and the Utopia Sprawls, I feel like there's enough reasonable targets. Plus, they could be a Sprawl deck. Okay. Doubt this will make a difference if they have... Actually, they can't even cast Kozilek's Command right now. I'm about to get Kozilek's Return instead. Yay. Guess that's a reason to leave in Winota. Kind of whiff, I guess, to get Utopia Sprawl out of it. Should have sequenced better. I should have waited to play a Johnny till after combat. Definitely don't want another land. Yeah, it's just too low impact, I think. Why didn't they play out the forest? That makes no sense. Mm-hmm. How many basics do you have? Who can draw something that matters first? Not exactly ideal, but it's a thing, so. In case for some reason they have another Kozilek's command. Do you have another commercial district? Lovely. Alright, lose round 1 to Eldrazi. One thing I'll say about this version right away is you notice the lack of filtering effects. Now, yes, we definitely kept some very mediocre opening hands. Like 4-land double Thoughtseize Johnny, and then mulligan to 6, 3 lands, Ocelot Pride, Wear Tear, and Johnny was the third card, or did we draw Johnny? Could have not walked into Kozilek's command quite as easily. I think we needed to be a little bit more patient with our Ocelot Pride, a Johnny, just to attack with the Ocelot first, see if they Kozilek commanded, and then maybe play the Johnny post combat would have been the best way to play around that, probably. One of the things with Winota decks is they've historically been very bad at filtering and with like different ways of either making Winota the centerpiece of the deck, like things like Eldritch Evolution or etc. One of the things that Energy has kind of thrived on is the fact that it has, you know, some Seasoned Pyromancers in the main. It has Fable the Mirror Breaker in the main, and a lot of times you can kind of leverage those filtering effects a lot better than, you know, typical mid-range decks. It's part of what makes Rakdos mid-range so good in Pioneer is its filtering abilities with things like Fable, etc. 3 lands. Yeah, sounds fine. Could be the mirror match. Really don't like running this out because chances are it's just going to die, but nope, it's the mirror match. Alright. Good to know. Well, I guess it could also be Storm. Storm it is. basically F6 here. If they cast a Ral, we'd want to with the Ral and all the other nonsense, the chances are that they brick enough is unlikely, so. Alright, so bring the spell bombs in, bring the annoying Peacekeeper in. Wear tears are a possibility. Purge is a maybe. Again, the flages feel a little slow. Peacekeeper in. Marionette Apprentice is a little slow. Want some discharges, but not a ton. So I'd like to play first. Guess we'll be on basic planes, play God of Souls, just in case they decide to go on the cheese plan. Okay. Okay. Sure. Okay. Okay. Yay. Like we could sack our board to kill this, but then they have another Ral lined up, so. Hard to have much of a takeaway so far. I mean, we basically played against two matchups that were already pretty rough for normal Boros Energy in Storm and Eldrazi. So it's kind of hard to get a get a good measure of the differences in a mid-range deck versus its normal counterpart when you're basically staring down two of its tougher matchups. Although one thing is there is a significant lack of what would be normal hate cards for those matchups. Magus of the Moon could have been okay against Eldrazi. Spellbomb and Wear Terror were theoretically okay against Storm. Ranger Captain helps that matchup some, but it doesn't fix the matchup. It only delays them by a turn. I really think Arena of Glory makes these two cards much better. Otherwise, they're very kind of middling because they're both. I mean, Winota requires there to be non-creatures in play or non-humans in play, and Alicia really requires, for the ones you really want to bring back, kind of requires you to have haste. So it's one of those cards that's probably a pretty good hit off Winota, but maybe not the best card to be hard casting. And then Marionette Apprentice in some ways feels like a win more card, or like an anti-sweeper kind of thing. Obviously players quite nicely with Bombardment, but when you're getting your board blown up by Kozilek's Returns and just dying on turn 3, probably not the best card in the world. Problem is, if you get Marionette Apprentice out of here, you have 4, 6, 9, 10, 12 hits for humans. I honestly don't know how Necro would have fared. Like, I think we've played once against Eldrazi with Necro, and then I don't think I've played against Storm yet. I don't know that Storm would be a great matchup, but we do have like Thoughtseize Inquisition, our own combo. Um, Dothy in the post board games against their graveyard, along with Boggart Troller. Not sure about that one. So what direction has Modern been going in the last week or so? Boros Energy, Eldrazi Ramp, Dimir Murktide, Storm, Belcher. So basically nothing new. Amulet, Morzod midrange, Domain Zoo, Samwise combos kind of popped up a little bit more. Affinity, Yawgmoth, Blue-White Control. Sorry, Domain, Sam combo, Affinity, Blue-White Yawg, Rakdos Burn, and Groyos. It's basically about the meta most would have expected coming out of the Breach ban, Energy being the number 1 deck, Eldrazi being the number 2 deck, the anti-combo deck being number 3, and then a bunch of combo decks, and then Orzhov midrange. First kind of aggro decks, Domain Zoo, then another energy deck, Samwise combo, creature combo deck, Affinity, Blue-White Control. So energy for Necro combo, Boros Energy's been a decent matchup. Storm and Belcher, I don't really have enough data. Amulet, we went 50-50 in our 2 matchups. Orzhov midrange feels like a reasonable matchup. So it's one we're going to have to continue to explore. We'll try it. I mean, it's a aggressive opening hand, but we are on the draw, so. Gas, Flooded Strand. I think we probably open up on Ragavan here. Like, we could try to lead on Thoughtseize. Alright, looks like we're up against Murktide, possibly. Frog. Spell Pierce, Spell Snare. Preordain. Good thing is Spell Pierce basically does nothing. Sure. So that's probably what they topped. So we're stuck between a Surveil and a hard place here. Fourth land. Sink in the Stupor? Nope, Dismember. Yeah, I've got another Dismember. Sure. Surprised they don't pitch the spell Pierce. Like, we know to play around it, number one, and it's just kind of a trash card right now. Sure. Don't know if we're playing anything around anything with that, but counterspell. Well, basically counterspell. Yeah, I don't really like how our opponent's playing. Jace the Mind Sculptor, sure. Flange would probably be what our best flip into the yard. I think we gotta do better than that. Well, it's like, what is going on? One trigger. And we get nothing. So we need block here. Let Jace take the one. Sure. Okay. Jace doesn't appear to be too common in these decks. Looks like it's usually more Kaito. Let's just move on. Not interested in our opponent master sealing here. Alright, Purge, and these come in. Not really interested in Annoyed Peacekeeper. Galvanic Discharge isn't quite as good, killing some of their things. I mean, it does kill Harbinger of the Seas, but maybe on the draw we take the Thoughtseizes out. Yeah, we'll try this one. Not going to play into either Spell Pierce or Spell Snare here, so. Fetch up Shadowy Backstreet here. Backstreet's back. Alright. Debating if they wish to Fatal Push this. Wonder what spell they're holding on to over there. Because it feels like they have a removal spell that they're debating. Do you have subtlety, I suppose? Nope. Okay. Don't think we want to give them Cling to Dust for a mid to long game. Sure. Curious what they're going to do here. Okay. Yep, that's fine. That's annoying, but So it looks like their opponent's preparing to dismember here. Raucous Theater, give me a Flage. Okay, so that one just kind of happened. Sure. So for now, I think we're going to wait until my turn to try to path this. Could have waited for their upkeep to try to use, a little bit more of their mana, but we missed a point of ping there because we auto passed. Okay. No auto passing for now, just in case the point of ping makes relevance. But I mean, if we don't draw something this turn, none of it matters. So down to 6, ping to 5. Down to 6, down to 5. So my missed ping with Gaia Souls might matter here. All right. Yeah, none of this matters. Got it. Should have played this main phase. If we'd pinged main phase, or pinged with the original, that would put them to 6. Attack put them to 5. Ping to 4. Flage plus ping would have been lethal, potentially. And then we should have played Flage main phase. But Winota Energy. And it's doing nothing but losing, so. Thought process is you get to use Winota to flip, Marionette Apprentices, Alicia, who laughs at Fate, Ranger Captain, Guide of Souls off of your Ragavans, Ocelot Prides, at Johnny's, and Flages. Then you have some other options in the sideboard like Magus and Season Pyro. Mediocre card in Modern. I haven't played the card in a while. I think it's been over a year since I've explored any Winota builds. And I thought there was a possibility that in these energy shells it might be decent to okay. And this version was put up by had a 5.0 with Taram was the username. And I don't even think the problem has been so much Winota specifically. I mean, we haven't drawn it enough for it to be relevant, but I think the problem is more how you have to build your Winota decks with a little bit higher density of creatures. It's very broken in Pioneer because the removal in Pioneer that could kill it reliably was a lot worse. I mean, you had to, at the time Winota was legal in Pioneer, you basically had Revolted Fatal Push and Rending Volley that were the only 1-mana answers that you could play. 5 lands, 2 Ragavans just isn't good enough. I mean, yeah, I think we have to keep this one. I'm putting back, I guess, the second guide. Hopefully we aren't up against Storm again. Not sure what we're up against. I would keep a double Sacred Foundry, no spells so far. Sure. What's the ultimate on this? 4. I screwed up my sequencing there. Should have left up my red mana, not my white mana. Yeah, but if it's Storm, we could still lose. But I guess Storm isn't likely playing Bolt, so... Feels like we are up against the mirror or some weird Boros control deck. Which main deck Wrath of the Skies would just be devastating here. Oh, we're up against Jeskai control. Frack. Alright, that explains the terrible slowness of their draw. Okay. Jeskai prowess of some kind. This way, even if they have a protection spell, we can just kill it. Yeah, I have no idea what our opponent's got going on over there. And Seeker of the Way is like one of the worst prowess creatures you could play. I have no idea what to even conclude we're up against. I think we bring in Pyro as a grindier card of a Ranger Captain because we're not trying to stop any combos that we're aware of. Path to Exile to kind of stuff any prowess nonsense, in addition to the Galv discharges. Thoughtseize isn't generally the best against prowess type strategies. We could arguably bring in Celestial Purge, but we don't know if what color their threat base is. They could literally be an all mono white threat base. So Purge seems like a card you might want to bring in, but until we see more of what's going on over there, I don't know that I really want to over sideboard. You know what? We'll bring in Purge over the Anointed Peacekeeper. So looking at this deck, can't cast these two. Pride into Pride could be okay, but could also just be dead. I think we're gonna mulligan. Seems a little bit better. Do I put back Winota or do I put back one of the other creatures? I feel like I put back Ragavan for now. The technical right answer is probably put back Winota. Because I don't think either one of our creatures, ironically, are going to do much this game. The problem with putting back Winota is since there's only 2 in the deck, we're very unlikely to draw it again. And I still want to get another crack or two at seeing this card in action in this league. Okay. Into preordain, sure. Well, not even pop off. I just want to see it, like, the one time we did get one attack in with it, it bricked. It was like 4 lands, Flage, something else. So gonna lead on Plains. I don't think our opponent is likely to be a Blood Moon deck, but not too happy that Path is the removal spell in our hand, because it means we're going to ramp our opponent. If they have another Seeker of the Way here. Oh, wow. Okay. Like, in some ways, I really feel bad that our opponent is playing these prowess creatures. Like, I would say, except for the mana base, this feels like a budget prowess deck. I say that and I'm going to get hit with a Force of Negation here. But just the threat base is so bad. Especially when you have things like, Slick Shot Show Off, you have, the 1 mana red creatures. Even things like Clever Luminancer. Like, if I'm going Jeskai, I'm probably going, like, Clever Luminancer, Soulscar Mage, and Clever Luminancer, Soulscar Mage, Monastery Swiftspear, and Slick Shot. Well, even if they're playing budget, the mana base is probably more expensive than the creatures. And even if you go budget, Clever Luminancer, Soulscar Mage, and Monastery Swiftspear are much better than Storm Chaser Mage and Seeker of the Way. I mean, that said, I am in the 03 bracket, so you get what you get in this bracket. It's entirely possible, Cone. It's entirely possible. And it's entirely possible that my opponent's having lag issues. Who knows? So I mean, we are in the friendly league, so opponent is disconnected. Not surprised there. So I think just looking at this deck and how its control is bad. Actually, it's been slightly on the uptick in Modern right now, which is kind of weird. Mostly because of, I think, Narset days I'm doing. Our opponent takes the game action here. I'd like to actually, you know, test Winota. No, maybe win by DC. I think looking at this deck, and I don't know that you want the Thoughtseizes in the main. I honestly think you want to go like Discharge Path in the main deck. Get the third Bombardment in here if you're going to run Marionette Apprentice. And then maybe trim these for like actual seasoned Pyromancers. Alicia, I would want to test a little bit more, but this card has not been particularly impressive so far. Apprentice has been middling, but, you know, it's really kind of hard when you're getting picked apart and having these weird, you know, starts that we've had some with this deck. So I think it's get the Thoughtseizes out of here, get the Ranger Captains in the sideboard, and just try to streamline the main deck to be as kind of removal heavy, interaction heavy for creatures, clear the way, try to get your creatures through. And then, you know, see how the deck shapes out with a little bit more streamlined of a game plan. And it may even be possible you don't want the Thoughtseize Marionette Apprentice nonsense. You may just want to go, like, literally have Boros, but like maybe even 4 Arena of Glory. And then, because I don't know that the Thoughtseize and Marionette Apprentice add enough. You know, Nihil Spellbomb's a nice card, but there are so many like Relic, Soul Guide Lantern, Vacuum, Ghost Vacuum, etc. Did I get rated? I feel like I got rated. Yep, Strass Daddy. What's up, Strass Daddy? How'd your stream go? Right now we're kind of stuck in limbo in the 03 bracket here. We're trying out a version of nice. Trying out a version of Winota. It's been very middling so far. We lost to Eldrazi, Storm, and Murktide. We just beat some type of budget prowess list. My thoughts on it so far is I don't know that the black adds enough to the list so far. Marionette Apprentice is nice when everything's going right, and you have like a Goblin Bombardment or you hit it off of a Winota, but it just feels really mitted. Thoughtseize is okay, but I don't know that stretching the deck into the third color is wise. And Alicia, the one time we had it in play, did nothing. So I really think it might be correct to go Boros and run for Arena of Glory, and then kind of go from there. This hand is just we'll try it, but this hand feels like a trap. It's a trap. Eldrazi again. Yay! I think we go grab Blood Crypt. Thoughtseize. Hope we can slow them down some. Wow. So take the Sprawl or the Talisman? I feel like we take the Talisman. Doesn't really matter. So they're going to play the Hedge Maze here. Actually, taking the Talisman does kind of matter in the aspect of casting Kozilek's Command. So they're going to get us with a wonderful Myco Spawn. Sure. They have another card to cast. That's Molly. Nope. Okay. Opponent's got some spice. We're looking for a 4th untapped land. That is a 4th untapped land. Marionette Apprentice is a little bit better here than Ocelot Pride. Get a Servo. Oh, for crying out loud. I'm about to have my entire board returned to my hand, aren't I? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Sure. Kozilek's Return? No, Fable. Winota. Missiles over Winota. Opponent's got some interesting stuff. Feels like they've got a Kozilek's Command, perhaps. That's just how the night's going. Alright. Definitely want the Megases in. Probably want the Wear Tears in. And the Paths over the Gal Blasts, Gal Discharges. Ranger Captain doesn't do much. This is very much a non-bo with Magus and Path, though. Don't think Peacekeeper does quite enough. We need to trim one more card. Maybe one Apprentice. Could also be a Flage here. So I'd like to play first. So they have two 2-drops. They have Fable. So we either take their card selection or we take their ramp. I think we try to slow them down. I'm gonna say, well, you're gonna play that, but we can't, so. Got the Death Shadow mana base going here. In the Rumble, yep. Choose Emrakul. Micah Spawn. Micah Spawn does whatever a Micah Spawn does. So we still know 3 of the 4 cards in their hand. Of course, they drew another Rumble. So basically, they get Talisman. We'll put a +1/+1 counter on that. Can they seriously cast that right now? Pushed 1. Does on the draw change anything? Captain, no. Spyro, not really a grindy matchup per se. Could bring in Spell Bombs. Is that too cute against Ugin's Binding and Kozilek's Return and Emrakul? Problem is I don't know what I would want to cut, so I think Nihil Spellbomb is a little too cute. Or we could Spellbomb, get the other Spellbomb in here. Opponent keeps 7. So is there a reason to keep this hand? So 22 lands in the deck. So we're about 70-some% to draw a second land and 2 draw steps. Does Guide Pride put enough pressure on them in addition to a Thoughtseize to make this hand worth keeping? Or should we be mulliganing towards other disruption? I think we keep it, but it is certainly a risky hand. Turn 1 sprawl, sure. I mean, technically we drew second land. Sure. That is an ambitious hand. All right, so what is our best? I think we do go ahead and play out Bombardment here. Just in case they draw. Kozilek's Return. No, just another Null Drifter. Come on, untap land, please. Put it on there. Sure. This feels like the Kazi's command. I feel like we just go for the content play more than the winning play. Another Kozilek's Return or Ugin's Binding here. So 3, 4, 5. I feel like our opponent was conceding there regardless. But looking back at the... So sack this, they go to 7. Attack with Ocelot Pride, da-da-da-da-da. They block one of these, they take 3, 4, 5, 6, and then they just get pinged to death. So opponent was no fun, but... once again, as far as the deck, I think it really needs streamlined. Like when it did the energy thing, like, you know, the guide Pride Ragavan opening and you could clear the way from creatures, it was good. When it just kind of did the piecemeal random, you know, some of the awkward mid-range draws you have with energy sometimes, it was much worse because you don't have the Fables and the Seasoned Pyros to kind of filter through your draws. Marionette Apprentice was very middling if you're not playing Goblin or don't have a Goblin Bombardment in play. Alicia Who Laughs at Fate, much better once again if you're sacking things, rebuying things, etc. Winota, when it showed up, almost as a win more card in some regards. It's either very middling or win more. I think the direction that I would probably take the deck is you either go back to Boros and cut these Marionette, Thought Cat, or Thought Seas, etc. Possibly go up to 4 Arena of Glory and then run the 3rd Winota along with the 3 Flages. And find some other curve fillers. I don't know if there are any other good Soul Guide cards for 1 mana or for that aren't in black that are the pinging things. So not sure this thing or with these. If I were to stay in black, I'd probably move the Thoughtseizes to the sideboard. Maybe trim him 1 Marionette Apprentice, and I would move probably either the Paths or some other removal spell into the main deck. You just want to maximize your creature openings, clear the way for your creatures. You definitely want the 3rd Bombardment in the deck. Just this makes the deck so much better, like it always does with energy. Probably want the 3rd Winota if you're going to want Winota in the strategy whatsoever. And it'd probably flip out the Ranger Captain Vios for the Seasoned Pyros. I don't think Ranger Captain obviously is theoretically okay against Storm, but this was more of a holdover from the Breach era. Anointed Peacekeeper, kind of the same thing. It's a cute one of, that's a disruption piece for combo. I think most of your combo hate pieces you want in the sideboard. But once again, your fast openings are your best openings, and I think you have to maximize that while acknowledging that this is a worse energy deck. I mean, if you're going to play Winota, you're playing it for the fireworks more than you are for the card being great in Modern. There's just too many ways to interact with it to make it reasonable. I think the Energy Shell is the best shell, but like these tertiary pieces of like Thoughtseize, Marionette Apprentice, Alicia Who Laughs at Fate, I just think there are better. You're better off in Boros and get the fourth Arena of Glory to maximize your like explosivity potential, or I think if you're gonna go the Mardu route, that you like put the Thoughtseizes and your anti-combo stuff in the board. Just try to maximize your fair and your quasi-combo game plan with Winota game one, and then have your like pivot hate pieces in the sideboard. That's just my thoughts. As always, if you do like modern content, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Next week we'll probably be moving back to the Necro Dominance combo life gain deck that we've been having a fair amount of success with. But as always, if you do like modern content, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Thanks to Strass Daddy for the wonderful raid today. And let me see if there's anybody out there that we can share the love with a little bit. Let's see, is there anybody out there? Magic. Okay. GG's live, nah. Pioneer. Is there even anybody playing modern today or anything? Does not look like it. Let's go to Legacy since